Hi there and welcome to Position 1 Power Equipment. My name's Adrian and today we're going to look at the P5200BC Brushcutter. I've laid everything out here on the table so that you can see the contents of your packaging. First of all, we have the head unit itself with its handle attached by its control cable. Then we have the lower part of the brush cutter, the shoulder strap, a 3-tooth brush cutting blade, a comprehensive user manual. Now I do recommend that you read through this before use. The bump head, the bump strumming head, the lower guard, a little bit of assembly needed, I shall talk you through that. And then you'll see that there is a little toolkit with it. And the contents of the toolkit are a small screwdriver, 2 Allen keys, a double-ended box spanner for the spark plug, an 8mm, 10mm spanner, importantly 2 Allen bolts, these are what's used to fit the lower guard, and a pair of cable ties to tidy your cables up once you've assembled it. And finally, your 2-stroke mixing bottle. This is a 2-stroke machine and we shall go through how to mix your 2-stroke later. And that's the contents of your packaging. So the first thing we're going to do is to fit the handle onto the upper bar. Now you'll see it has got some plastic packaging. This can be pushed all the way off and off the one end. And the handle is going to fit gripped in this area here on this bracket. Okay, so I've loosened off the 4 screws already. You'll find that using the larger of the 2 Allen keys, or the fatter one of the 2 I should say, the shorter fatter one rather than the longer thinner one, you can undo the 4 bolts that hold on this cover, and that reveals the semicircular cutout where this handle fits. Now as you can see, the handle fits. It has a low area here on the side of the controls, and that controls, looking from the head end, should be on the right hand side of the machine as I've got it here. So having placed it in position, simply put the clamp back on top and reassemble the upper handle. Tighten it up just semi-tight at this point, because you may find that you want to adjust the position of the handle this way and that way, and maybe up and down on the machine to suit yourselves as you go along to what fits your particular size. But I do find for myself, if I keep this handle at 90 degrees to the body or to the output shaft of the machine, I'll just do up these 4 screws. I've got this at 90 degrees to the lower shaft, and that actually works quite well for me. But as I say, you can rotate this back and forth before you tighten it. You see I've only got it loose there to suit whatever feels right in your hands. It's one size fits all, but can be moved around to sort taller and shorter people, etc. So having fitted that handle and got to the position where you're happy with it and are comfortable with it in your hands, you can then tighten down on these screws. But at any time you can just loosen them off and adjust it, you know, as you're going along. As you're working more, you might find that one position is more comfortable than another, etc. And that's how to fit the upper handle. Next we'll move on to fitting the guard onto the lower part. Let's move on to fitting the guard on the lower part of the assembly. Using the 2 Allen bolts that were in the toolkit and the same Allen key, the short, fatter one of the 2, we'll take the lower guard and simply, looking at the bracket that's on the lower guard, place it in the nest provided on the lower guard and simply insert the 2 Allen bolts into their respective holes, and having done that, tighten them up. Take care when fitting this lower guard, as this area here is the strimmer wire cutter, and it is quite sharp. It does have a protective cover on it when it's transported to you, a little black cover, but it is sharp, so just be aware that you don't cut yourself when you're fitting this lower guard. Okay? And that's how to fit the lower guard. So I'm going to show you now how to fit the brush cutter to the bottom end of your brush cutter, the brush cutting blade as opposed to the strimmer blade. This nut here on the bottom is a left-handed thread, so if you turn it clockwise to remove instead of the usual anti-clockwise, then remove the chrome ring and then the thick washer. This is the drive flange here, and that can also be removed, and this will show you there is a hole in the outer and a corresponding slot here, and also a corresponding hole in the drive flange. So you need to fit the drive flange and line it up so that this Allen key, which is the thinner one of the two, will fit right through the 3 gaps and lock off this central shaft, which enables you to tighten the nut. So the drive flange locked off, then the brush cutting blade with the writing facing upwards away from you, this being the ground side, then the flat washer with the curved side facing towards you, then the chrome washer or the chrome bumper, and then anti-clockwise with the nut to tighten it. Using the box spanner provided and the locking Allen key in through the hole, making sure that the blade stays on its register while you're tightening and you don't push it off that little location ring. Tighten up the blade. Once you're done, remove the Allen key and give it a quick spin just to make sure that you've got it in its location. You'll also notice that there's a plastic blade protector here. I'd probably recommend leaving that on while you're fitting it, just to protect your hands, and only to remove it when you actually intend to use the brush cutter. Simply pop it back into position when you're not using it. And that's how to fit the brush cutting blade. To fit the strimming head, again, anti-clockwise to undo the nut. Remove the chrome domed ring and the washer, but leave the drive flange in position. Again, lock the drive flange by putting the smaller Allen key through the 2 holes, and then screw the lower nut on the bump head onto the protruding thread. Again, anti-clockwise to tighten it up. Hand tight on that one, and that's how to fit the strimming head. Once you've tightened it up, remove the Allen key. Let us move on to the shoulder strap. The shoulder strap attaches on this point here, which again, by loosening this lower Allen key here, can be moved up and down on the shaft to suit the individual. I'll start off with it about halfway between the handle and the engine. And this strap hooks in with this little hook into here. It does have the extra feature of a quick release. If you pull out the red tag like so, you can put the machine down and what have you for servicing, or when you're not using it and what have you. And to reconnect it, simply place the shoulder strap through the loop, replace the red pin, and again it's ready to use. The shoulder strap can also be adjusted for length in the usual manner here. So once you've found your ideal position, tighten everything up, and to release yourself simply pull the pin and it's a quick release system. So connected and disconnected. Simple as that. Once you've found your ideal position and have been using the machine for a while, and you've found your ideal position for your handles and your shoulder strap, what feels right with balance and what have you, you can then cable tie the control cable forward and backward of this point. So perhaps one at this point here and one at this point here, with the two cable ties provided. I'll just demonstrate without tightening them up. So you might have one here, like so, and another one at the front here, like so. Okay. Let's move on to the two-stroke fuel for your machine. So having pre-mixed our fuel with semi-synthetic two-stroke oil at a ratio of 40:1, we now need to put it into the fuel tank. Unscrew the filler cap anti-clockwise, it does have a retaining strap, and put your pre-prepared mixture of two-stroke oil and petrol into this tank. I would probably leave about 25 millimeters from the very top when filling it. Okay, and that's how to fuel it up. Having fueled it up, back on clockwise with the filler cap, make sure it's nice and tight, and that's how to fill your engine with fuel and two-stroke oil. To start your brush cutter, the first step would be, after fueling, to prime the carburetor. This is the primer bulb here on the bottom of the carburetor. You'll see it just above the fuel tank. Push this primer bulb 2 to 6 times until you see fuel in the primer bulb, pretty full of fuel. So having primed the carburetor, next we will turn on the choke. That is up for the choke into the start position. Down would be for when it's running, and up for starting. Next we need to turn on the on-off switch. The on-off switch is located here on the right hand handle. Down for on, and to stop the machine, up towards the top of the handle. So down for on, up for off. So having now switched the machine on by pulling the on-off switch down, we need to preset the throttle. This is the throttle lock, this is the throttle. Press the throttle lock, pull the throttle and push in this button and then release the two. Now this sets the throttle just above tick over to start the machine. Whenever you then pull the throttle, that button will pop out and the machine will idle normally once it's warmed up. So prior to starting, the lock, the throttle, push in the button and let go, and that will be just slightly above tick over for starting. So I'll just run through that start procedure again. Prime the carburetor, underneath the carburetor, between the fuel tank and the carburetor, 2 to 6 times until you see fuel in the float or in the bulb. Set the choke on, which is the up position. Set the on-off switch on, which is the down position. Pull the 2 throttles and push the button, which is the tick over position, and pull start the engine. If the engine starts or attempts to start, after a few seconds turn off the choke if it has started, or if it attempts to start, also turn off the choke and then try and start it again. It will start, but once it's attempted to start, turn off the choke whether it actually starts or not. So if it tries to fire or attempts to start, turn the choke off and then pull start it. So if it starts, turn the choke off after a few seconds. If it attempts to start, switch the choke off and pull start it again until it starts. To stop, push the stop switch to the up position, having let it idle for a few seconds. Once the machine has started and you've now turned off the choke, leave it run for a minute or two, and when you come to use it, When you push the throttle, it will release the little takeover mechanism in here which we put on for the starting. So the second you pull the throttle, that pops back out. And that's how to start and stop your brush cutter. I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit www.p1pe.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and happy gardening.